And so you could always test your stuff out. It was fantastic.
You could play these local bands' tapes that they wouldn't even have a record out, and it was awesome.
I can remember one day it was with Miss Lynn. I was driving over to do an interview, and I heard punk on the radio on WMBR during the day. This was insane. Punk was only one time a week on Eddie's show. So I got Linda in the car. I said, Linda, listen to this. And we turned it on. She said, where's that? What's going on there? And it was the Late Risers Club had finally gone from sort of a rock, straight rock format. They were now doing punk.
The great thing about it was it really validated the scene. And because it was, here we are driving in a car, listening to the radio, and it's our music. It's not some, you know, super lead guitar crap or Olivia Newton-John. It was our music, and it was on the radio for us to listen to.
We did two things that no one else was doing. One, we played music, and there were a few other places that played, you know, radio stations. Oedipus played it on Saturday afternoons, and WERS played it a little bit. But what was so radical about us was that we played in the morning. We played it in the morning nonstop, and we took over the whole day. So suddenly, somehow, people listened to WTBS and WMBR either at work or didn't have jobs or whatever it was, but it became a real big part of their life because it was consistent every day. You knew it was there.
It was TBS was where it was at. I mean, that was, you listened to them for that 2 hours of shows every single day. That was, you know, why you lived.
I just remember having the feeling that the MBR staff, the Late Risers Club staff in particular, was just the vanguard, like at the forefront of what was going on in Boston and what was happening in music at the time.
We did have a rabid, dedicated audience, you know, all through those years, from '77, well, probably up to this day, but in those early days, it were really rabid, because we were it. We were the only people that you were going to go to.
Things that were happening in the clubs got out over the radio, and people found out and heard about it. And a lot of people that didn't go or couldn't go to the clubs would know what's going on. It was it brought the scene together. It really helped pump things out. So it was a real hunger for what we were doing. It surprised us.
This is the world-famous Late Risers Club concert report.
It's on Natural Acts in La Peste, Friday and Saturday at Little Tiny Cantones.
We're sitting here with Guy Days, Pablo, thank you, Pablo LeBritton, and Nick Cash from 999.
2 minutes past 1, Mission of Burma is here.
It's Nick Lowe with They Called It Rock, and we finished off with the Dead Boys doing I Need Lunch. Hey, why stop now?
And we are WTBS in Cambridge, 88.1 FM, the Late Risers Club. Dave Woolman and Carter Allen here.
We were always looking for ways to be able to get money together for the radio station. That's how, number one, the tradition of the Late Risers Club and WTBS benefits started, getting 10, 15 bands of the Boston scene at the time and putting them all in the Rathskeller for $5 admission, starting at 2 in the afternoon and ending at 2 in the morning.
This Sunday, WTBS puts rock and roll on stage with La Peste and Pastiche.
Mama says I'm going blind. Mama says I'm going.
The WTBS Rock and Roll Showcase will give you a chance to hear some old friends and some brand new names. That's 10 bands for 12 hours. The doors open at the Rat this Sunday at 1 p.m. And all donations, of course, will go to the WTBS Higher Power Fund.
We'd always wanted to raise the power and you know, do the stereo thing and raise the power. I mean, the antenna on top of that Eastgate building is a good location.
I believe it was in late '79 or early '80 when the FCC decided that all low power stations had to go up to at least 100 watts. And that meant that we needed to buy a new transmitter because our cranky old transmitter couldn't do that.
The FCC decided to do away with what was then known as the Class D 10-watt radio station. And all the radio stations operating at that power level had to apply for higher power.
And we sort of found ourselves in the get some money or go off the air.
The phone rang, and this person is on the phone saying, you know, I want your call letters, those are my initials. If you'll release them, I'll donate $25,000 to your station. And I'm looking at this equipment that looked like, you know, equipment from Planet 9, you know, X movie. And I thought, wow, we could certainly use this $25,000. I don't know who you are, but Sure.
Ted Turner wanted to name his superstation. Cable TV was just coming into existence at the time, and he wanted to name his station in Atlanta WTBS.
Our lawyers, working with their lawyers, came up with a deal that Ted Turner would donate $25,000 to the radio station when we released those call letters back to the pool of available call letters. And since he knew when that was going to happen, he was then able to go and apply for those call letters and get them. And the deal also was when he got them, then he would donate another $25,000.
I thought it was a joke. I was like, Ted Turner cares about us. He really wants to buy TBS. He needs the call letters for his big new mega thing.
The fact that he would call himself was stunning. And the fact that he brokered the deal himself at the time when we were about to have to disappear from the airwaves because we didn't have the money to go higher power to buy the equipment that we needed. So it was just perfect timing that all of this occurred. I believe it was May 1979. We signed on the air as WMBR Radio. Ted Turner got WTBS, and the rest is history.
Remember, the Late Risers Club is brought to you on WMBR, which is a public service of MIT, which means no commercials. So between 9 and 1 on the Late Risers Club, you will hear non-stop music all the time with no interruptions. Absolutely continuous music. Except for a few public service announcements for highway safety, VD, herpes, alcoholism, littering, forest fire prevention, weight watching, high blood pressure, halitosis, turd burgling, and the dangers of fur balls. But then, it's back to the music. The non-stop musical entertainment you expect from the non-profit and non-commercial WMBR.
The Late Risers Club, after a while, was non-MIT students. And although we were welcomed as community people, in reality, we were having to prove ourselves every day because we didn't have the pure blood of the MIT student going through it.
I would walk in the morning and there would be a lot of the MIT people who were doing their shows. And you'd walk in, you'd go, hey Bob, how's it going? And they would go, Carla, you left beta in alpha mode. So the MIT people were just like very, very, a lot of them very focused on the technical aspect and keeping the station exactly as it was. So when the punks came in, it was a little disconcerting for them.
It was a cultural divide. It was the more civilized musicologist type people and us punks.
We were nerds too, but we were nerds like the Feelies, or nerds like, we wore skinny ties like the Jam did. They were a different kind of nerds. They were the pocket protector nerds.
Well, I don't ever recall any hostility per se. And of course, when the LRC went on the air, I was a graduate student. So I was on the student side of things.
There was always hostility and intimidation between the Late Risers Club or the rock people that came from the community and MIT. It was a historic proportion sometimes.
So we had these massive student station meetings that would go on for hours and hours, and we'd be fighting and at one another's throats. Even though we did our best to raise money and be participants, there was a certain amount of jealousy, I think, and a certain amount of resentment, not so much because we were outsiders of the MIT community, but kind of because of the kind of music we played.
They used to call up all the time when we were playing the records, and I was playing records, and they would say, did they just say, I'm gonna fuck you in the liver? Which they did in this song by Alberto Los Trios. But I had never listened to the lyrics. I only just paid attention to the music. I literally didn't know that that's what they said. And I said, gee, I don't know.
Oedipus actually got fired from TBS for playing the Dead Boys. He played Caught with the Meat in Your Mouth. And the management of the radio station fired him because of obscenity. So he had to go before a review board, and he told them that they were talking about a hamburger. And they said, really? And they let him back on the staff.
Those station members, by being negative towards us, we felt like we were 5 people against the world. And the funny thing is, we knew we were right. Now you'd think that if everyone tells you you're wrong, that maybe the music does suck, maybe you're not doing the right thing. We never said that. We knew it was great and we were going to do it. So yeah, the more you're against us, the more we fought.
And we fought like cats and dogs. 20 years later, when you go to the 40th anniversary of WMBR and those kids are there and you're there, you love them for being your enemies that long time ago and having that much passion and concern. But at the time, you know, we're plotting and scheming, and they were plotting and scheming, and they'd win some and we won some. And obviously we didn't do that bad if there's still a Late Risers Club today.
MBR in Cambridge, the Late Risers Club, 88.1 FM. 494-8810 is what we used to call the main line, so I guess all this week we're going to call it the main line also. And we want to hear from all our old friends that were back 1977-78 because, of course, we're celebrating our 5-year anniversary. Yeah, the Risers have been pumping it out. Oh, God.
Late supper.
The Risers have been pumping it out for 5 years now, officially as the Late Risers Club.
Good evening, Late Risers, and welcome to the club. This is the Greek American Political Club, and you are all Late Risers. Get on the stage, come on. Yeah, this is the 20th birthday of a punk rock radio show that airs weekdays from 10 a.m. until noon, called the Late Risers Club.
The whole music community, I mean, not just local, but I mean specifically local, you know, all the local bands at that point owe a debt to Late Risers Club and WMBR.
There was no other outlet. And then as more college stations kind of started popping up through the early 80s, there started to be a college radio scene playing alternative music because of this station.
Late Risers Club helped spur ZBC doing their modern rock program, which sort of took a different, more, you could almost say a goth, electronic feel to it.
Anybody that listens to commercial radio at all in a city, especially in a city like this, is a fool, basically, because you've got 4 or 5 good college stations playing anything you would want to hear.
I'm just amazed at the devotion of the people that work there and on the show. I mean, I know the hours of volunteering and the planning of the shows, there's so much time and thought that goes into it.
The people that are on there because they want to be, and they're not getting paid.
On the Late Risers Club, this is Joni, and at 617-253-8810. Jerry's kids in there with Build Me a Bomb and The Unseen doing So Sick of You.
The legacy part is cool. It's like, wow, this has been going on since the late 70s. This is one of the oldest punk rock shows in, you know, the history of Boston radio, if not all radio.
I mean, it is an institution just because it's been around for so long, if for no other reason. It's pretty cool that it's still going fairly strong at this late stage of the game.
I can't imagine the city existed without it because it was deeply in my consciousness and in my memory. I mean, to me, and this isn't hyperbole, this isn't excessive, it's like the Red Sox not existing, you know? It's part of New England, playing rock and roll, playing independent rock and roll, you know? Because they go together, they go together.
Hooray for the Late Risers Club, and hooray for WMBR for making it not easy, making it tough so that we had to be as good as we possibly could be to validate our time on the air. And obviously the people who followed on had to continue to validate the worth of the program, or it wouldn't be there today. I like to believe it's the role model for the rest of college radio.
I'll have the full-blown world-famous WMBR concert report at 11:30.
Disorienty, youth hell, Christ bastard, ass manx.
X, the Australian X. I guess we're back to playing lots of Aussie stuff.
Both Middle East shows. Yeah, I've got tickets to go see Pagoda Red upstairs as well as Ozma downstairs.
He said he'd give me $1 million if I could do the show next week without talking.